So welcome back students to another session of pre-stressed design of pre-stressed concrete elements wherein we were dealing with shear stresses in PSA beams. So we are going to now solve this cantilevered problem now which which you can see on your screen. So can anyone please read out the problem statement for me? Quickly, please, can anyone read the statement for me?
A cantilevered portion of pre-stressed concrete bridge with a rectangular cross-section 600 mm wide and 1650 mm deep is 8 meter long and carries a reaction of 350 kilonewton from the suspended span at the free end, together with a uniformly distributed load of 60 kilonewton per meter, inclusive of its own weight. The beam is pre-stressed by 7 cables, each carrying a force of 1000 kilonewton, of which 3 are located at 150 mm, 3 at 400 mm, and 1 at 750 mm from the top edge. Calculate the magnitude of the principal stresses at a point 550 mm from the top of cantilever at the support section.
Okay, thank you. So we will try to draw a cross section of the beam with these particular data which is given to us. Let me draw a rectangle over here as a cross section. So what is the depth and what is the width? Can anyone tell me by reading the statement? What is the width of this particular beam and what is the depth? It is given here, you can see. $600, correct? Width is 600, no problem. What about the depth? Depth is, let me draw it over here. It is 1650. Okay. Few other details have been given. So here, the length is 8 meter. Okay, no problem. L is equals to 8 meters. No problem. Okay. And carries a reaction of 350 kilonewton from the suspended at the free end. So I will draw this particular beam over here, cantilever. So it is free, it is fixed at one end and it has a load at its free end. So it is 350 kilonewton. Okay, and the span here given is 8 meters. Okay. Next thing, together with a uniformly distributed load of 60 kilonewton inclusive of its own weight. So along with this particular 350 kilonewton force, right, there is one more UDL which is acting. So this UDL is 60 kilonewton per meter. 60 kilonewton per meter. It is inclusive of its own weight. Okay. Next thing. Moving on. The beam is pre-stressed by 7 cables. Okay, it has 7 cables totally carrying a force of 1000 kilonewton. Okay, so the force in the cable is 1000 kilonewton, of which 3 are located at 150 mm and 3 are located at 400 mm and 1 at 750 mm from the top edge. Okay, so now we will try to draw based on this data. So from the top edge, the first 3 cables are located at 150 mm from the top edge. Okay, so let me draw the center over here. So this is the center line of this. So what is this particular distance center line now? Half of 1650. Can anyone tell me what is the value? Half of 1650.
825.
825. Okay, 825 I've written. This is also 825. Now the first 3 cables, let me change the color. We will use blue color. Okay. So the first 3 cables are located at a distance of 150 mm from the top. So it is 825 till here. So 150 will be somewhere over here. So I will draw 3 cables, cable number 1, cable number 2, cable number 3. Okay, fine. So these are located at a distance of 150 mm from the top. Okay. So this distance is 150. What about the next? The next three are located at 400 mm from the top. So 400 mm meaning somewhere over here. So this is the second set of cables, which is located at a distance of 140 mm from the top. So from here I will draw, this is 400. Okay, the second set of cables are located at a distance of 400 from the top. Now one more cable is left out. It is at 750 mm from the top edge. So it is somewhere over here. Right, it is not crossing the half midway line because it is 700, right? It is less than 825. So this particular cable is located at a distance of 700. Okay, so we have drawn the cross section. So why can you observe that these particular cables are in the above your neutral axis, and usually the cables are provided below the neutral axis, right? Here they are provided
Because
like
it is
this.
a cantilever beam, sir.
Because it is a cantilever beam. Okay, the reason that you have given correct. Now what is the logic behind this? Why do they provide in a cantilever beam at the top, above your neutral axis? That is very important. Understanding the
Because it
concept.
will hog, sir.
Because it will hog. So if this is my cantilever beam, which you see on the screen, if these loads are acting on it, right, what will be the elastic curve? It will be like this, right? It will be going down, right? Stay straight initially and then going downward. So this is hogging, right? Whatever you have told is correct. So this is hogging. So if I draw the depth, it will be in this format, correct? So where is the tension and where is the compression? Can you tell me, can you identify which is the compression phase and which is the tension phase?
Tension at the top, sir.
Tension at the top, correct? Tension are generated at the top. You can see it is hogging. So this particular phase will experience tensile forces, and this particular bottom phase, you can see it is getting compressed. So it is compressive force or compressive stresses are there at the bottom fiber. So where do we need to provide steel? Where the concrete is in tension, right? Because steel is good in tension. So we need to provide steel wherever there is tensile forces. So we need to provide our reinforcement at the top face. Okay, so remember, don't draw your cross section in the reverse format. Don't draw your beams over here. So this is the very basic thing. Usually, many of the times also asked in the interviews whenever you go for any interview. Okay, so remember, always the cantilever has reinforcement in its above section or above the neutral axis, right? Whether it is a RCC or a pre-stressed, right? Reinforcement or a steel should always be in the in your upper portion. Okay, so we have drawn the cross section. Now we need to determine the remaining things. Now let us see what we need to do first. So we need to first determine the CG of this particular steel. Okay, CG of this particular steel. Okay, the distance of the center of CGS, right? CGS we need to determine. Center of gravity of steel. Okay, after we find that, we can easily calculate eccentricity, right? So we need CGS first. So how do we find out CGS? It is by this formula, right? Y is equals to, Y is the distance of CGS. Okay, Y is the distance of CGS either from the top fiber or from the bottom fiber. So here we will consider from the top fiber. So Y is the distance of CGS. Okay, the point of CG of steel from the top fiber, that is given by the number of steel wires into their distances. Okay, into their distances, Y, let us say Y. Okay, summation of this particular thing, summation of number of bars into their distance divided by, what do we need here? We need Y, right? We need Y here. So we need to cancel out this number. So hence I will divide it by the summation of number, because this number and this will cancel out. You will be left out with Y. So remember this thing. So this is the formula which we will be using now to determine the CGS. Okay. So following this particular formula, we have written this thing. Okay, Y is equals to, from the top fiber. Okay, from the top fiber, let us calculate. This is the first set of wires, which is 3 in number. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. 3 in number. So 3 number I have written, and their distance from the top fiber, that is 150 mm. So 3 into 150 is the first thing. Then the second set is what? 3 into 400. 3 into 400, that is this set of cables. the second set of cables, they are located at a distance of 400 from the top. So 3 into 400 plus this single wire which is at a distance of 700 from the top. So 1 into 750 divided by the total number, that is 3 plus 3 plus 1. Okay, so you will get the CG of steel as 343 meters from the top, 343 mm from the top. So if this is the cross section, once again I will draw using your CGS and CGC. So this particular half of your beam is what? This is CGC, concrete CG. Okay, and this particular thing we have found out now, CG of your steel, CG of steel, CG of steel. So this is located at a distance of how much? It is located at a distance of 343. 343. And what is this distance? It is nothing but half, right? It is half of the depth. That is nothing but 825, right? So 825. Okay. Now this is what? This is your eccentricity E. Okay, the vertical distance between CGS and CGC. Okay, so now what is E? Can you tell me what is E? Calculate. It is nothing but 825 minus 343, right? This half distance minus this distance. So what is E value? (825 minus 343). Answer is already on your screen. Verify whether it is the same thing.
482, sir.
Correct. 480. 482. We have found out now. Eccentricity we have found out. Okay. Now pre-stressing force is given to us, that is 7,000. How has this come as 7,000? Initially it is given as 1,000 per cable. Okay. Each cable carries a force of 1,000. So how many cables we have? 7 cables, right? So 7 into 1,000, the total pre-stressing force is 7,000 kilonewton. Okay. Now the moment due to section, moment on the section due to pre-stressing force, that is M is equals to P into E. Right? Due to eccentricity, there is some moment which is generated in the section. So that moment is equal to P into E. So P is 7,000 kilonewton and E is 482 mm. So multiplying P into E, you will get the moment, that is 3,374 kilonewton. Okay, so this is done. Next, after that is done, we need to find out moment due to, you can see moment due to external loads at the support section, moment due to external loads. So we have two external loads. We have two loads, that is one UDL acting on it and one force which is acting at the free end. So the moment we need to find out at this particular support, we need to find out the moment which is generated over here. Okay. So the moment will be equal to what? This 350 into 8, right? 350 into 8 is what? This moment which is going clockwise, right? So this is about this particular point, fixed point. So it is going clockwise. 350 into the perpendicular distance is 8 meters. So 350 into 8 is written first, that is plus. Then again we have one UDL which is acting, right? 60. So that is also going clockwise with respect to this particular point. It is also going clockwise. So hence it is plus 60 into 8, which will give me the intensity, right? 60 into 8 will give me the intensity into the perpendicular distance. So if I convert it into a point force, it will be 60 into 8. This will be the resultant force, 60 into 8, and the perpendicular distance, what is this now? 8 by 2 into 8 by 2. Okay, so this particular thing is written over here. 60 into 8 into 8 is 64. 64 divided by 2. So the total moment at this particular section, at the support section, is 4,720 kilonewton meter. Okay, so now we have found out the moment due to external loads, the moment due to pre-stressing force. Both of these are done. Now the maximum shear at the support, at this particular support, we need to find out the maximum shear force value. Maximum shear force value. So consider the summation of vertical forces and tell me what is the shear force that is acting over there. Consider the summation of vertical forces and try to find out the shear force and tell me the answer. Basic strength of materials, SFD, what you do in shear force calculation. So we have one downward acting 350 kilonewton, one downward acting 60 kilonewton per meter UDL, which is downward acting, and one reactive force here. we need to find out Ra. What is the reaction value here? Apply the summation of vertical forces and tell me the answer.
830.
830 kilonewton. Okay, correct. You have got correct. 830 kilonewton is the correct answer. So Ra is equal to this minus, right? This minus 350 and minus 60 into 8. It is 830. 830, which is acting in the upward direction. 830 kilonewton. Okay, so I have taken summation. I have found out the reactive force at the support section. Okay, which is nothing but the maximum shear at the support, right? Maximum shear at the support is the same thing. Now, second moment of area. Second moment of area, I we can calculate, right? BD cube by 12, that we can apply, and we can calculate I, right? 225 into 10 power 9 mm raised to 4. No problem. BD cube by 12, it is a rectangular section. We can find out, no problem. Now, to calculate the resultant direct stress, that is F value, right? F value from the top edge at support section, from the top edge 550 mm from the top edge at the support section. So what they have told in the question, we have to find the principal stresses at a point 550 mm from the top. Okay, 550 mm from the top of the cantilever at the support section. Very important. So they have specified where we need to find out. We need to find out at this particular section, support section, and where at a distance of 550 mm from the top. 550 mm from the top. So let me draw the cross section over here again. So this is your cross section. So at a distance of what? At a distance of 550. So this distance is 550 mm from the top. Okay. So this is what the support section. Okay, this is this cross section I have taken from the support. It is over here at the support. Okay. So what is the formula of F? It is the basic formula which we were using in the first module. Okay, for analysis of pre-stressing beams, right? What is the formula of F? If you recall, what is the formula of F? It is easy to solve. It is nothing but P by A plus PE y by I minus my by I. Okay, so this is what is the equation, and this is they have substituted all the things. You can see P, they have substituted 7,000 into 10 power 3 by the area, cross-sectional area of the beam, plus P into E. P into E value we have calculated here. You can see P into E, right? P into E, 3374. 3374 into 10 power 6 into Y. Y is what? 275. So how have we arrived at this particular Y? Very important. Y. So here Y is nothing but, see, this is your distance, which is half of your beam distance, that is 825. Half beam depth. And if you minus from 825, if you minus 550, you will get this distance, right? From the CG, this particular plane of interest or point of interest is at a distance of how much? 275 mm. 275 mm. So that this is the Y which we are concerned with. This is Y, right? Y at the top will be what? 825, and Y bottom will be what? 825 itself, right? So if you want in between anywhere, we have to calculate. So we have calculated, it is coming as 275 mm. So Y we have substituted, that is 275 divided by I. Similarly, minus my by I, we have substituted M, that is 4720, right? Which we have calculated, into Y by I. Okay. From this, we have got the direct stress or the normal stress, right? Direct stress or the normal stress, which we require in the X direction. Okay. In the X direction, we have got, there is no vertical pre-stress, hence Fy will be equal to 0. Fy will be equal to 0. Okay. Now what we need to substitute, we need tau, right? We need tau V. So this particular tau V can be found out by this formula, right? VA y bar by IB. VA y bar by IB. So all the things are known.
Fy equal to 0, sir.
Fy is 0, right? There is no vertical pre-stress present. So Fy will be equal to 0.
Okay, yes.
Correct. So no vertical pre-stress. Only horizontal pre-stress is there. So Fy is 0. Tau V, we know the formula VA y bar by IB, right? Everything is known here, VA y bar by IB. Everything is known, right? V shear force at the support we have calculated. That is, you have told me, right? 830 kilonewton, 830 kilonewton. Right? That is V. A is nothing but the cross-sectional area at this particular section, right? We want to find out at this section. So this is your cross-section, and this is my plane of interest. Okay, and this is the neutral axis. So area is this area. Okay, the area capital A which we have written is this area. Okay, and y bar is the distance of this CG from the neutral axis. Okay, so y bar is here. A I have told you is this particular area, and y bar is known. I and B is also known. So you can substitute all these things, and we can calculate the shear stress. Okay, shear stress is tau V, which is 1.1. Then we can easily substitute all the required things in maximum and minimum principal stress formula, right? F max and F minimum, the formula we know. In that we can substitute, and we can calculate the maximum compressive shear stress and maximum tensile principal stresses F max and F minimum. If it is positive, it is compression. If it is negative, it is tension. Okay, so this is what they have done. They have substituted here, and they have found out F max and F minimum. So this is how you have to calculate when you have been given with a cantilever problem. So here this is a unique problem wherein you have seen they have told to calculate at the support section, but not at the neutral axis, right? But the plane of interest is not at the neutral axis. It is at a distance of 550 mm from the top, right? 550 mm from the top, or 275 from the neutral axis, 275 from the neutral axis. Okay, this is my plane of interest. So I hope you have understood this particular cantilever problem. If you have not understood any step, please feel free to ask. I will explain once more. I hope you have understood all the steps. Please reply whether you have understood. Shall we move on to the next one? If you have any doubts also, please ask.
So summarize once quickly.
Okay. Let me summarize this particular thing. Okay. One thing I'll do. There is no space over here. Okay. Which part or the entire sum should I summarize, or any specific part you want me to explain?
Sir, I understood the problems are just steps, sir.
Steps. Okay. Okay, so our main aim here is to calculate the principal stresses. Main aim is principal stresses. Okay, and this principal stress where we need to find out at the support section. Okay, no problem. This section which I am drawing over here is taken from the support section, is over here at the support, and this is the neutral axis, and we have been told to find out at a distance of 550 mm from the top, at a distance of 550. So this distance is what? This distance is 550. Okay. So it is not at the central, it is not at the neutral axis, it is at a distance. Okay, so this will be the area which we will be using in calculation of tau v, right? Tau v, this will be the area, and this is the CG of this area. This will be the y bar. Okay. So we know what is our main aim. Our main aim is to calculate maximum and minimum principal stresses. So we know the formula for F max and F minimum, right? We require in that, we require Fx, we require Fy, and we require tau v, right? So Fy here is 0 because there is no vertical pre-stress, so no problem. So we need to find out Fx and tau v. So these two we need to find out. So for these two, whatever is required, we need to calculate first. So for Fx, for calculation of Fx, I have written here the formula. Okay. So for Fx, I have written the formula. So we need what? Pre-stressing force P, that is nothing but the total force which is acting in the cable, that is number of cables into 1000, that is force per cable. So 7000 here, area of cross section of the beam. So y we need to find out here, this particular y variable we need to find out, and we need to find out eccentricity E. Okay. Also, along with that, we need to find out this particular moment acting over here. So let us start with eccentricity. Eccentricity, you can find out what I have told you. Eccentricity is nothing but the distance. Eccentricity is the vertical distance between CG of concrete and the CG of steel. CG of concrete is easily found out for your beam. It is nothing but half of your depth. CG of steel we have found out by using this particular formula. Okay, so once you get eccentricity, multiply eccentricity by your pre-stressing force P to get the moment P due to eccentric pre-stressing. Okay, no problem. Once this is done, then calculate this particular M, which is due to external loads. This particular M or the moment which is generated here is due to external loads. So what we need to do here, we need to calculate the moment due to external loads. So that we have done, this is calculated using this free body diagram which I have drawn over here. And also we need to determine this reaction RA. Okay, RA which is required for calculation of tau V. Here we require, that is nothing but RA. Okay, A and Y bar I have explained. So now you can substitute all these things and we can calculate Fx, we can calculate tau V, right? And hence we can substitute all these things in your principal stress and maximum and minimum principal stress, Fmax and F minimum formulas, and we can calculate them. Okay, so this is the summary. So main aim was to calculate tensile stresses. So whatever was required, we have calculated and then substituted in the formula for Fmax and F minimum. Okay, so is it clear now? The steps are clear, no problem.
Yes, sir. Understood, sir.
Okay. So we shall move on to a new concept now. We shall move on to a new concept wherein we are going to study the code book first. We will look into the code book first and then we shall move on to the next thing. Okay. So is the code book visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is IS 1343 1980. Okay, 1980. It is the Indian Standard Code of Practice for pre-stressed concrete. Okay, Indian Standard. It is especially for code of practice. It is a code of practice for pre-stressed concrete. Like you have a code of practice for RCC, that is IS. Which code of practice for plain and reinforced concrete?
146, sir. IS 146.
Correct. IS 456, Baba.
456, sorry.
IS 456. Okay. Similarly, we have IS 1343, which is for pre-stressed concrete. Okay. So we will study. We are studying shear, right? So we will move on to the shear section of this, which is at a page number, which is at the page number 47, I think. Okay. So 46 page number. So here you can see limit state of collapse in shear. Limit state of collapse in shear. It is in page number 46. 22.4, clause number 22.4. Okay, so the ultimate shear resistance of concrete alone, right? Concrete has some shear resistance. Okay, it is not that it does not have, it has, but it is very less compared to your combined due to your combined this thing. But when you provide stirrups, that time it will increase. But concrete has some, initially it has some shear resistance. So we need to calculate that ultimate shear resistance of concrete. That is nothing but VC. Okay, VC should be considered at both sections uncracked and cracked in flexure. So whenever we are dealing with flexure, right, whenever we are dealing with bending moments, right, your beam will tend to sag or it will tend to hog, right? And when that is the case, when your beam is sagging or whenever it is hogging, there will be cracks which will be developed in your beam, right? Whether it is in sagging, it will be at the bottom, and in hogging it will be at the top, correct? So in flexure, what will happen, there will be the section may be cracked or it may not be cracked. So it is uncracked or cracked. Two cases we have. Okay, two cases. When it is uncracked, when your concrete is uncracked, meaning the concrete is handling your tensile stresses, it is not giving away, it is still able to handle and resist those cracks or those tensile stresses. Okay, so our concrete is holding in and it is not cracked. So that is the first case. And when it cracks, when the tensile stresses increase above its cracking limit, right, cracking limit of your concrete, what it will happen, cracks will start to generate and automatically concrete will transfer those stresses to steel, correct? When your cracks are generated, those tensile stresses will be given or passed on to steel. So that is nothing but the second case, which is cracked in flexure. So we have two cases. Okay, one is uncracked section and second is cracked section in flexure. Okay, so both we have to calculate and the lesser value is usually adopted. The lesser value taken, and if necessary, shear reinforcement is to be provided. Okay, So this is the clause number 22.4, which gives us some idea about limit state of collapse in shear. Okay. Now first thing, 22.4.1, sections cracked in flexure. What do you mean by section cracks now? Meaning the concrete has given away, it is cracked and the tensile stresses are transferred. Okay. The ultimate shear resistance of the section, okay, the concrete has some shear resistance, right? The section has some shear resistance. We have to calculate that particular shear resistance, the ultimate shear resistance of that particular section. It may be a rectangular section, it may be a T section, L section, I section, any. And we can consider at support, we can consider at midspan, at quarter span, depends upon where you are interested to calculate. Okay. So we see here, right? We see is what concrete alone, the concrete ultimate shear resistance of concrete alone, we have considered at VC. Okay. Here in cracked section, in uncracked section, what we will consider VC is equals to VCO. VC we will consider as VCO, which is uncracked. Okay, sections in uncracked in flexure, VCO. And once it is cracked, we will consider it as VCR. Okay. For cracked sections, we will consider as VCR, right? CR meaning crack and VCO meaning uncracked. Okay. So we have one formula for VCO. You can see here VCO is equals to 0.67 BD square root of FT square plus 0.8 FCP into FT. Okay. So this particular formula we will be using, and this you have in your code book. So if you have your code book with you, no need to remember this particular formula. Everything is given in your code book itself. So what are these various elements now? So here this particular B is nothing but the breadth of the member. Okay, breadth of the member. If it is a rectangular, it is B. If it is a T section, if it is a L section, if it is a I section, what you have to consider instead of B, you have to consider BW, right? Breadth of the web you have to consider. Breadth of the web we need to consider BW. Okay, if it is a T section, if it is I section or L section. Next, what is D? D denotes what? Overall depth of the member, overall depth of the member. Now, FT, what is FT over here? FT is maximum principal tensile stress given by 0.24 root FCK. Okay, FT we have, it will usually be given or we can calculate by this particular formula 0.24 square root of FCK. Okay, what is FCK here? What is FCK? Can you tell me what is FCK?
Characteristic compressive strength of concrete.
Right? It is nothing but characteristic compressive strength or nothing but the cube strength, right? Cube strength of your concrete. So FCK we know, we can substitute directly here and we can calculate FT. No problem. Now what is FCP? FCP over here, FCP is compressive stress. Okay, C denotes compression and T denotes what? T denotes here, it denotes tension. Okay, so C is compressive stress at centroidal axis. Okay, remember it is to be found out at the centroidal axis due to pre-stress taken as positive. So this particular value is taken as positive, whatever may be the magnitude that we have to consider, not the sign. Compressive stress at centroidal axis is nothing but FCP. Okay. So in this term, we have in this particular equation, we know all the terms now. So we can calculate the ultimate shear resistance of a section in uncracked. Okay, uncracked section in flexure, we can calculate easily. Okay, so this is what? This is nothing but the capacity of your concrete to resist shear, correct? So it is nothing but the ultimate shear resistance or the capacity of your concrete to handle shear. Okay, so which is VCO, which we have calculated. Now suppose we have some shear which is coming, some shear due to external loads, which is 250 kilonewton. Shear due to external loads is 250 kilonewton, and the shear capacity which we have calculated, VCO, is equal to 280 kilonewton. Now, capacity is more than the shear force which is due to external loads, right? Capacity is more, which is 280 kilonewton, and the shear force which is coming due to external loads is 250 kilonewton, right? The capacity of the concrete to hold is greater than the shear force which is coming on it. So now it is, do we require shear design or do we not require shear design in this particular case, where your capacity is higher than the shear load? Do we have to design for shear?
No, sir.
No, right? Because your concrete is able to handle that particular shear, because concrete capacity is 280 kilonewton, right? And the shear force which is coming on it is 250 kilonewton, right? It is lesser. So it can easily handle that much amount of shear force. Hence, we do not require any shear design. Okay, so that can be your statement which you have to provide. Okay, so we have understood what is the formula for calculating the ultimate shear resistance of concrete, okay, in uncracked situation, that is in flexure. So this is the formula which you have to use from your code book. Okay, so here a few things that you have to remember is in flanged members where the centroidal axis, okay, occurs in the flange, centroidal axis, right? Usually in your flanged members, that is T section, I section, which is a flange section, your centroidal axis usually occurs in the flange. Sorry, it does not usually occur, but when it occurs, wherever it occurs, when in any example, if it occurs in the flange, the principal tensile stress should be limited to 0.24 root FCK. Okay, and at intersection at the flanged web, in this calculation, 0.8 of the stress due to pre-stress. Okay, so this is not very important, this particular statement. You can skip on this particular statement. But remember, when you are dealing with flanged members where the centroidal axis is in the flange, usually it will be in the web, right? Centroidal axis will be in the web. If it is not in the web, if it is in the flange, the maximum, the principal stress should be limited to 0.24 square root of FCK. This particular statement is important. Now, after we have studied uncracked members, the second thing is section in cracked. Okay, section in cracked. So for this particular thing, we also have a different formula. We have a different formula. You can read a big formula is there. Okay, so this is not tau. It is not tau naught. It is tau c. Okay, tau c, tau c. So this tau c will be getting from your table number 6. Tau c is got from your table number 6. You can see table number 6 is here. Tau c value you can find out from this particular table. So what is this 100 into AP by BD? What is this particular thing? 100 into AP by BD. What do we call this? Area of steel divided by the cross section.
Percentage of steel provided.
Correct. It is your percentage of steel, PT, which we provide, percentage of steel provided, PT, which we call as. Okay. So from that, you can determine based on your concrete grade, we can determine your tau c. Okay. So this particular thing we will be using. For a section uncracked in flexure with inclined tendons, this is one condition, important condition. Okay. In the first case itself, in uncracked in flexure, in this case, if we have an inclined tendon, right, we have parabolic cables, we have inclined cables, right, and when that is the case, what will happen? We can resolve that particular inclined force, right, inclined tendon into horizontal and vertical components, right? PV and PH. I hope you recall we have done that previously. That PH is in the horizontal direction, PV is in the vertical direction. Correct. So that is there. So if that is the case, if you have inclined tendons or vertical pre-stress, right? If you have inclined tendons, parabolic tendons, like slope tendons, or if you have directly vertical pre-stress, which is applied vertical pre-stress, the component of pre-stressing force normal to the longitudinal axis of the member may be added to VCO, right? To this particular equation, VCO, we have to add that vertical PV, right? Vertical component of the pre-stressing force we have to add, plus PV we have to do, or if there is vertical pre-stress, we have to add that particular value over here in this equation. Okay, so remember that important condition is there depending upon the cable profile. Okay. Pre-stressing force, what do you mean by this component of pre-stressing force normal to the longitudinal axis? It is nothing but PV. It is the pre-stressing force which we derive or which we resolve in the vertical direction, right? Vertical direction. That is nothing but normal to the longitudinal axis of the member, right? Normal to the longitudinal axis is nothing but the Y direction, which is the component PV, which is acting in the Y direction. Okay, so that must be added over here if we have inclined tendons or vertical pre-stress. Okay, so this is all regarding your section in uncracked. So we have covered all the things in uncracked sections. Now moving on to sections in cracked. Okay, here the ultimate shear resistance of the cracked, we know it is given by VCR. This is the formula. So FPE, what is FPE? It is the effective pre-stressing force in the cable after all the losses, effective PE, okay, effective pre-stressing force. And what is FP? FP is the characteristic strength of your steel, What is characteristic strength? FP, okay. And tau C, I have told you we have to calculate from the table. BD will be given to us. Here V is the shear force, okay, shear force acting, and M is the bending moment which is acting. Now M naught, what is M naught? We shall check what is M naught. Right, I have explained all these things, effective pre-stress after all the losses. Okay, all these things I have explained. Now what is M naught? Okay, M naught is moment necessary to produce zero stresses in the concrete at the given depth. Okay, wherever you want to calculate that particular depth, moment necessary to produce zero stresses. So this is given by the formula 0.8 FPT I by Y, FPT I by Y. Okay, so this is the moment which is necessary to provide zero stresses in the concrete. If you apply this particular M naught to your beam, it will have zero stresses at that particular cross section. Okay, so this can be calculated as 0.8 FPT I by Y. So we know what is I, moment of inertia, right? And FPT also we know it is the stress due to pre-stress. Okay, stress, it is a stress only due to pre-stress. Stress caused due to pre-stress only at a depth D, okay, at a depth D, at any depth D, and distance Y from the centroid of the concrete section. Okay, so it will be clear once you solve a numerical on this. So remember this M naught formula also, we require this formula. Okay, EV and M, I have told you it is nothing but the shear force and bending moment respectively. Okay, and VCR, this particular VCR which we calculate, okay, VCR, there is one condition for this VCR. VCR should be taken not less than 0.1 BD root FCK. Okay, this particular VCR value should not be less than this 0.1 BD root FCK. We have to calculate this, and we have to make sure that it is not less than 0.1 BD root FCK. Okay, so all this is done, no problem. So I hope you have understood all the required things that are used for solving the numerical. So these particular equations are already there in your code book, so no need to remember them. If you have the code book and if you remember the page number, clause number, you can easily substitute and you can calculate. Okay, a few more things regarding this. So table number 6, I have told you how to use. Next, over here you can see the value of VCR calculated at a particular section. Okay, value of VCR, that is the ultimate shear resistance of the section, calculated at any particular section, may be assumed to be constant for a distance equal to d by 2. Okay, equal to distance d by 2 measured in the direction of the increasing moment from that particular section. Okay, so this we will not be making use of, but this you can remember. This is an important thing which you can remember. So it is, let me explain using Paint. I will explain one more tab and I'll explain over there, because this particular PDF does not allow us to write on it. It is a protected PDF. So are you able to see the Paint screen? Let me share. I think it is not being shared. So I hope you are there and following it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Stay with me. Stay focused. Okay. So what does the clause say? What the clause says is, what the clause says now here is, let me read out for you what the clause says. The value of VCR calculated at a particular section may be assumed to be constant for a distance equal to d by 2. Okay, equal to a distance d by 2. So let me draw cross section. This is your cross section of your beam. Suppose this is the cross section of your beam, and this is the effective depth D. Effective depth D. Effective depth D. This is the cross section, and this is the longitudinal section which I have drawn. Suppose you have taken this particular section at this particular plane. This is the section taken at this cross section XX. So whatever you calculate VCR, whatever you calculate is applicable to a distance of d by 2, to a distance of d by 2. Okay, suppose this distance is d by 2. D we know is here. D by 2 is this distance d by 2. So we do not know which direction is it is equal in this direction or it is equal in this direction. So that also they have mentioned. It is to be measured in the direction of increasing moment. It is to be measured in the direction of increasing moment. Suppose if you have a UDL and increasing moment will be in which direction now? If this particular cross section, let me clear it. Now this is your beam. You have considered this as a cross section, interested plane. So this is what distance d by 2. Correct, distance d by 2, and this is your bending moment because it is having a UDL throughout. This is your bending moment diagram. So moment is increasing in which direction? In this direction, your moment is increasing, right? You can see moment, your bending moment is increasing in this direction. It is going on increasing. So it is equal in this direction. So whatever VCR you calculate at this particular section, it is equal up till here. It is equal up till here. Okay. Throughout in this particular, if you take any section in this particular distance, the VCR value will be same. Okay, VCR value will be same up to here, up to a distance of d by 2. So I hope you have understood what that particular clause says. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So was the paint screen visible to you? I think it was visible, right? Correct? It was visible now? Okay. So let me come back to your code book now. Let us come back to the code book. So that particular clause I've explained. So it is not very useful for solving your numericals, but you should know this particular thing. Okay. Okay. So now moving on to the next thing. Shear reinforcement. Okay, shear reinforcement. Now, if your capacity is lesser than the load which is coming on it, what I've told, if the capacity is smaller than the load which is acting on it, capacity is smaller than the load, which means the shear force V due to ultimate loads. When the shear force V due to ultimate load, okay, is higher than the shear capacity. That is, it is higher than VCR. It is higher than VCR, meaning your concrete is not able to handle that much shear. So we need to provide some shear reinforcement. Okay, so when that is the case, we have to refer this particular thing. When V exceeds VC, shear reinforcement shall be provided such that this is particular formula which you have to use for calculation of your shear reinforcement. Okay. Now, what is SV, what is ASV, what is SV? We shall look into this. Okay. Now, suppose when the V is less, okay, V is less than the shear force capacity. If it is the first case, meaning your capacity is higher than the load which is acting. In that particular case, the shear force may be carried by the concrete, right? Minimum shear reinforcement should be provided in the form of stirrups. Okay, even though your concrete has some capacity or has the capacity to handle that particular shear, you have to provide some minimum reinforcements, minimum shear reinforcement, such that you can use this particular formula to calculate that area of steel required. Okay, this particular formula you have to use when V is less than VCR. Okay, this particular thing you can use and you can calculate the minimum reinforcement that you have to provide. What is ASV? It is the total cross-sectional area of stirrup leg effective in shear. Area of total cross-sectional area of what? Total cross-sectional area of stirrup legs. Okay, ASV gives us that. Now, what is B? B is the breadth of the member, right? B is breadth of the member. And if we are dealing with T section, if we are dealing with I sections or L section, we have to use BW. Okay, we have to use BW instead of B. Okay. Now, what is SV? SV, we know it is the spacing of the stirrups. Okay. And what is FV? FV is characteristic strength of the stirrup. Okay, F characteristic strength of the stirrup, which is Fy, right? Fy, which is usually not greater than 415. Okay, the stirrup which you provide, it is of a maximum grade of 415. It may go up to it may go up to 500, but the code says that it should not be greater than 415. So Fy, this particular thing is Fy. Okay, so we know all the terms. We can calculate ASV, we can calculate area of steel required and also the spacing that is required. Okay, so this is the first case wherein V is lesser than VC. Okay. A few more considerations over here. However, shear reinforcement need not be provided in the following cases. Okay, the shear reinforcement need not be provided in the following cases. First case, where V is less than 0.5 times VC. If you calculate half of VC and if you check if it is even lesser, okay, V is even lesser than that, we need not provide any shear reinforcement. Okay, if you calculate some amount of VC and if you take half of that and your loading is lesser than 0.5 VC, right, then we need not provide any shear reinforcement. That is the first case. Coming to second case, in members of minor importance, we need not provide any shear reinforcement. Okay, so this is regarding first case. Coming to your second case, I have told you when V exceeds VC. Okay, we know what is ASV, SV, all these terms we know, right? What is VC also we know, which we calculate, that is capacity, and V is the loading, right? Load, shear force due to external loads. Okay. Now in rectangular beams at corners in tensile zone, a stirrup should pass around the longitudinal bar, right? All these considerations, that is bar bending and how it has to be placed in your beam is given over here, no problem. Then the depth of the depth dt is taken as the depth of extreme compression fiber. Okay, no problem. All these things are not required. Okay, this is important. The spacing of stirrups along a member should not exceed 0.5 times dt. Okay, stirrups spacing should be limited or it should not be exceeding this particular number 0.75 dt, nor it should exceed 4 times the web thickness. Okay, nor it should exceed 4 times the web thickness, that is 4 dw, sorry, bw, 4 bw. Okay, so these two considerations we have to keep in mind. Then when V exceeds 1.8 times VC, V exceeds 1.8 times VC, the maximum spacing should be reduced to 0.5 dt. Maximum spacing should be reduced to 0.5 times dt. The lateral spacing of the individual legs of the stirrups. Okay, lateral spacing meaning the distance between two legs of your stirrups that you provide in the cross section should not exceed 0.75 dt. Okay, a few considerations we have to keep in mind in the second case. Okay, for regarding your spacing of your stirrups. Okay, so this is all about the theory part which we have covered using your code book. So if you have not understood any of the part in limit state of collapse or use in shear, okay, limit state of collapse in shear. If you have not understood any of the part, any of the concept, any of the terms in this, please ask now. I hope you have understood. Yes, yes or no? Is it clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Shiv Kumar, Mulmani.
Yes, sir.
ಅರ್ಥ ಐತ್ರಿ
sir.
ಇದೀರಿ ಓಕೆ ದೇರ್ ಇನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್
Yes, sir.
ಏನ್ ಚಾಲು ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಟೋಗ್ರಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾರೆ
ಇಲ್ರಿ sir, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ
ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ ಸಂಜು
Yes, sir.
ಅರ್ಥ ಐತ್ರಿ
Sir.
ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಕೋಡ್ ಬುಕ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿಡ್ ರಿಗಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಶಿಯರ್ ಓಕೆ
Yes, yes.
ಸೊ ಸುನಿಲ್ ಹೊಸೂರ್
Yes, sir.
ಆರ್ ಯು ದೇರ್ active and listening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Vinayak Pujari, Vijay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Vijay is not here. Shubham.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. Okay. So we shall now move on to numericals regarding this using this particular code book. Now we will solve a few numericals.
Sir, next class, sir.
Next class, sir. So class started at 12:30, right? It is just 1 hour. We have 1 more hour. Any specific reason?
Sir, actually, I want to have some work, sir. I need to go to bank.
Okay, you can go. No problem. You can give her attendance and go. You can watch the video later.
Yes.
Okay. So let me share the screen. Just give me a minute. I will share the screen and we shall start with a numerical. If you want a break, you can let me know if you want a break, or if you want me to continue, I shall continue.
No, sir. Continue, sir.
Okay. Just a minute. Okay. Kanta idhar screen, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So we will start with the first numerical. It is a bridge girder made up of T section. Okay. So you can see we have a T section of width. The flange width is 600 mm. Flange depth is 230 mm. Depth of the web is 950 mm, and the thickness of the web is 150 mm. So these dimensions are given. Span of the beam is 25 meters. Span of the beam 25 meters. Okay. Effective pre-stress after all losses is 900 Newton per mm squared. So what is this represented as? Can you tell me the notation that we use for this? Effective pre-stress after all the losses. How do we represent this? How do we write it? F something subscript. Correct what I've written on the screen? FPE. Are you guys following? Are you there? Am I not audible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
I hope I'm audible, Baba. Reply
Yes, sir,
madri, reply madri. Okay. So effective pre-stress after all the losses is given as 900 Newton per mm square, which you write as FPE. Okay, which you write as FPE. Tensile strength of concrete is given as 1.6 Newton per mm square. Tensile strength of concrete. Okay, you can see the unit. It is Newton per mm square. Hence, it is stress. Right? It is stress. So concrete tensile it is. So FT I will write it as, because it is tensile strength. Okay. Cross-sectional area of the cable is given. That is nothing but AP. Cross-sectional area of cable. The cable is parabolic. Okay, very important. Cable is parabolic with 0 eccentricity at support and 650 at the midspan. You can see it is a parabolic cable. You can see I have drawn over here. 650 is at midspan, eccentricity, and 0 at the supports. Okay, I'll estimate the ultimate shear resistance of the support section and maximum permissible UDL with a factor of safety 2. What we have to estimate? We have to estimate maximum shear resistance, right? VC. Okay, VC we have to estimate, and here we can see it is uncracked, so it will be VCO. Okay, it is not VCR, it is not the second case. Okay, it is the first case or the first formula which we have to use. Okay, not the second one. Okay, so we need to determine that particular thing, and also we need to determine this W. Okay, which is not given to us. The UDL which is present on the top is not given to us. So we need to find the maximum permissible UDL with a factor of safety of 2. Okay, so we need to determine this W. Okay, so all these things are given to us. I have written over here. You can see I have written length of the beam 25 meters, FPE, AP, factor of safety, FT, and eccentricity at the midspan. Okay, all these things are given. I have written down. Okay, I hope this part or the problem statement is clear. Okay, I hope the problem statement is clear. Now, as I've told you, we need to determine VCO, we need to determine, and we need to determine the maximum permissible UDL allowable on the beam. Okay. So before we move on, as I've told you, whenever we have an inclined tendon, we need to add P theta. We need to add this vertical component, right? We need to add this vertical component to this particular formula. I hope you remember I had told you we have to add the vertical component if we have any inclined member. Okay, so to this particular formula VCO, we have to add PV. Okay, because it is an inclined tendon, right? It is a parabolic inclined tendon. It may be a straight tendon or it may be a parabolic cable. In both the cases, it is inclined, right? It is not horizontal. It is inclined to a certain angle. So we have to add that particular thing to your equation. So if you remember, the vertical component PV is equal to P theta. What is P? P is nothing but the pre-stressing force, and theta is the angle of inclination. Okay. So this is P theta, which we need to add over here to the particular equation VCO. Okay. So this equation I have taken from the code book. Okay, I have taken from the code book, which we have just discussed. 0.67 BW D square root of FT square plus 0.8 FCP FT. Okay, in this particular equation, we have BW, we have D, we have FT. Okay, FT, we have only the unknown here. You can see is FCP. This particular thing is unknown, correct? FCP. And the formula for FCP, I have told you what is FCP. FCP is the compressive force in the concrete, compressive force in steel, sorry. Compressive stress in steel, sorry. It is not force, it is stress, okay? Compressive stress present in steel. So compressive stress in steel is nothing but the pre-stressing force P in cable divided by the area of the total area of the beam. Okay, let me just check once more what is FCP. Let us not assume or some wrong things. Okay, what is FCP? FCP is equal to compressive stress at centroidal axis due to pre-stress taken as positive. Okay, it is compressive stress at the centroidal axis. Okay, so FCP. So what is P? P is not given to us. You can check in the statement whether P is given, right? In the given things, you can see there is no mention of P, right? But we have been given effective pre-stress. We have been given the area of pre-stress, right? And we know stress is equal to what? Stress is equal to force by area. We have been given with stress, that is FP. Force is not given to us. Area of steel is given to us, right? So what will be force now? Force will be FP into AP. That is nothing but the force in the cable. Okay, so this is how you can arrive at this particular formula. That is what is used over here. Okay, P is nothing but FP into AP divided by A. A is what? A is the cross section of the beam, total cross section of the beam, right? So effective pre-stress is given as 900 into AP, or the area of steel, is 2300 divided by the area of the total cross section, of the beam. So if you substitute, we have got FCP. FCP is 7.38 Newton per mm squared. Okay. Now you can see in this particular equation, we know all the required things. We can substitute now and we can calculate VCO. Correct? We can calculate VCO. Now here VCO we have substituted. You can see 0.67 BW, that is breadth of the web thickness, 150 into D, overall depth of the beam. Is here. You can see it is what? 950 mm plus 230. Okay, it will give you your overall depth of the beam, which is nothing but capital D. Okay, overall depth of the beam. that is substituted next. Square root of ft, which is given to us, square root of ft square plus 0.8 plus 0.8 fcp into ft. FCP into FT. So we have calculated VCO, it has come as 410.92 kilonewton. Okay, it is a force which we have calculated. It is a force, not stress. Okay, so 410.92 kilonewton. Okay, so this is VCO. I have told you we need to add PV. We need to add PV to this VCO. We need to add. We have not considered up till now PV. Okay, what is PV equal to P theta? Right, PV is equal to P theta. We know the value of P. So P value is known to us. Theta value is unknown. Theta value is unknown. So how to calculate theta? Theta, we have the formula that is 4E by L, right? For a parabolic cable, at the support section, the theta will be equal to 4E by L. Theta will be equal to 4 into E by L. So 4 into E, that is eccentricity at the midspan, and L is 25 meters. So this is the theta. So P into theta, that is 900 into 230 will give you your P. This particular thing will give you P, right? Effective stress FP into your area of your steel. So P into theta, we have got PV, that is the vertical component of your pre-stressing force, as 215.28 kilonewton. Okay, so this I have told you have to add to your VCO. Okay, so here you can see the ultimate shear strength of the particular member is equal to VCO plus PV, that is 410 plus 215, that is equal to 626.2 kilonewton. Okay, so this is what we have calculated. That is the ultimate shear strength of concrete, VCO. We can write it as VCO, total VCO. Okay, it is not this VCO, it is the total VCO, which is after adding PV. Okay, now I hope the first part is clear. Is the calculation up to here clear to you? Is it clear up to here? Is the substitution and all the things in this particular equation clear to you? Substitution and all, I hope it is clear. If you have any doubts in any steps, you can ask. We have a lot of time. Okay, an important thing that you have to do is you have to add P theta. Okay, don't forget to add P theta to this VCO. Okay, now you might ask me, why have I used this particular VCO and not gone for VCR? It might be a doubt in your head why we have not used VCR formula and why we have used VCO, why we have considered the first case, that is uncorrect, and not gone for the second case, that is correct, right? So if you just go through the formula which is for correct, right, it was having M naught, right? It was having M naught, it was having M, right? So in the question, if you see, there is no mention of moment, or any other thing. So if this is missing, you have to go for VCO. Okay, and if they tell you and if they give you these particular moments and all these things are mentioned, then you have to go for the second equation, that is VCR. Okay, so this is the first one, that is a simpler section where it is uncorrect. Okay, so keep these things in mind before applying the formula. Okay, so is this particular part clear? I hope it is clear. If you have any doubts, please ask now. So VCO is equals to this particular thing plus P theta, this bracket plus P theta. Okay, Artha clear? Shall we move on to the second part?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Sunil Osur says we have seminar at 2 p.m. Anyone else who has a seminar at 2 p.m.? You can let me know. Anyone who has seminar at 2 p.m.? No one? Okay. So Sunil Osur has given attendance. No problem. You can go attend your seminar. You can watch this video later. Okay. Moving on to the second part. What they have told us to calculate this W, right? To calculate the W. This was the second part. We have calculated VCO, we have calculated. The second part is to calculate this particular W, right? The UDL which is acting, maximum permissible UDL. Okay. For this thing, what we will do is we shall consider the free body diagram. You can see I have drawn the free body diagram of a simply supported beam, right? And the L here is how much? 25 meters, right? 25 meter is the span. W is unknown here. W is unknown, right? So what will be the reactions? What will be the reactions? I have written here. It is nothing but half, right? Half of the load, that is W into L by 2. Half of the load on each of the reactions. WL by 2, WL by 2. Okay. Now, WL by 2, right? The maximum shear force, which is usually at the support, right? Shear force maximum will be at the support, right? So that particular shear force, maximum shear force, right? We have to equate to the capacity. We have to equate to the capacity, that is nothing but to 626, which we have calculated. Okay, what they have told us, to calculate the maximum permissible UDL, maximum permissible, right? Hence, we have to adopt at the cross section. We have to adopt at the support section where the shear will be maximum, right? If you take it at the center, the shear force will be 0 at the center. Correct? It will be 0, right? It will be 0. So we should not take at any other point. We have to take the maximum value, right? To find out the maximum permissible UDL. Hence, we have taken WL by 2 and equated it to the capacity. Okay. So here, if we equate, what will be now the value of WL by W? We know W is unknown, right? W is unknown, L is known, right? So L will go on the other side of the equation. It will come at the denominator, right? And this 2 will go on the other side. It will come at the numerator. Okay. So we are left out with WU. So solving this particular thing, we have got the WU value as 50 kilonewton per meter, right? The UDL, which is the factored moment, okay, factored load which is acting, that is 50 kilonewton per meter. Okay, so if we divide, because they have told us that they have used a factor of safety of 2. Okay, they have used a factor of safety of 2 they have used, and after using this, they have arrived at the WU, that is nothing but 50 kilonewton per meter. So working load we need to calculate now. What working load? This is the ultimate load. Okay, this is the ultimate load, which is WU. Now we need to calculate the working load. So to calculate the working load, we have to divide by the factor of safety. Divide the ultimate load by the factor of safety. Ultimate load is 50. Divide by the factor of safety, which is given as 2. You will get the working load, that is 25 kilonewton per meter. Okay, so the concept of working load and the factor of safety. Suppose you have now in this same particular example, we will take the UDL is already given to us, right? UDL is given to us. The UDL is having a working load of 25 kilonewton per meter. UDL is having a working load, meaning the load which is actually on the beam, actual load on the beam is 25 kilonewton per meter. Now what we do usually, civil engineers, we take some factor of safety so that during its lifetime, if it is exceeded, right? If it is exceeded, suppose there is some function or there is some event going on, there are more people standing on that particular slab, and the load is increased. It increases more than the limit, right? If it is, if you design it for 25 and suppose it increases, it exceeds, loading exceeds, your beam will fail, right? So to avoid this, what we do, we take a factor of safety as 1.5 or 1.75 or 1 or 2. We can adopt depending upon the situation and the type of member, right? Type of member and the situation. So here they have adopted a factor of safety of 2, meaning what they are assuming that even though if the beam, if the loading that we consider is 25, actual load on the beam will come as 25. In a worst case scenario, suppose the loading is doubled. That is, it is increased to 50, even though the beam will not fail, right? Because we have used a factor of safety of 2, we have doubled the capacity of the beam. Even though the load is only 25, we are designing it for 50. So this is the concept of factor of safety. Okay, so here the beam is designed for 50, right? The beam is designed for 50, and the working load, to calculate the working load, we have to divide by the factor of safety, okay, to calculate the working load. And if you want to calculate the ultimate load, what you have to do, you have to multiply by the factor of safety. Okay, so it is usually 1.5. What we use, 50% is what we increase, right? 50% what we increase, but here they have taken it as 2. Okay, so they have doubled the capacity of the beam. So this is your first numerical which we have solved. If you have any doubt in any of the steps, okay, please feel free to ask. Get your doubts cleared in the live session. That is why we are keeping live classes for you and not a recorded session. Okay, is the concept clear of live load, of working load and ultimate load? Is that particular concept clear? Is this particular calculation clear? Calculation of the working load. Is it clear? Second case, second part of the question, calculation of working load. Is it clear, guys?
Yes, sir. It is
Yes.
clear.
Okay. So we shall solve one more and we shall finish today. We shall solve one more. Is it fine? We shall solve one more. Shall we solve one more problem and then wind up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Others, Shubham, Sanju,
Yes, sir.
shall we continue? No problem.
Yes, sir.
No problem. Okay.
No problems.
Okay, good, very good. So here in the second problem, you can see we have a T section. Okay. Overall depth is given. Overall depth of the beam is given 1300. Okay. So I have drawn over here. You can see T beam and the overall depth is given 1300. Okay, no problem. Thickness of the web is 150, which is given. Okay, 150 thickness of the web is given. No problem. A few remaining things are also given to us. Extra things are given. The distance of top and bottom fiber from the centroid are given. Distance of the top and bottom fiber from the centroid are given to us. That is nothing but YT and YB are given to us. YT and YB are given to us. YT is 545 and YB is 755 mm. Okay. So you can see that is nothing but the distance of the top fiber from the centroidal axis. From the centroidal axis, the distance of the top fiber is 545 mm, and the distance of the bottom fiber from the centroidal axis is 755 mm. So this particular calculation they have done and already given to us. Okay, which usually we have to calculate, right? CG of concrete. Usually we have to calculate, right? But here they have provided us directly these values. No problem. Next. At a particular section of the beam is subjected to ultimate moment. Okay, ultimate moment is given. MU is given as 2130 kilonewton meter. Okay, and shear force is given as 237 kilonewton. Okay, both these things are given. Effective depth is also given. That is nothing but small d. Effective depth, small d is given. Let me show you in the figure where is small d. This is your small d. That is the distance of your top fiber till the pre-stressing cable, right? Till the CG of your cable. This is the effective depth, 1100 mm. Okay. That is given. Along with this, a few extra details are given. FCK value is given, right? Characteristic strength of your concrete is given to us. Moment of inertia is given to us, that is I. Moment of inertia is given I. Next, area of pre-stressing steel. AP is given to us 2310 mm squared. Okay. Here you can see one more statement they have given. Effective pre-stress at the extreme tensile fiber of the beam is, okay, effective pre-stress FT at the extreme tensile fiber, it is nothing but tensile stress, right? FT. Let us check if it is correct, right? FT, okay, FPT is 19.3, which is I have written over here. You can see it is effective. Okay, it is FPT. Okay. Tensile stress of tendon is given, that is 1500 Newton per mm square. Tensile stress is nothing but FP. Tensile stress of the tendon FP is given as 1500 Newton per mm square. Okay. Effective stress in tendon after all the losses. Okay, effective stress in tendon meaning FPE. Okay, effective stress in tendon after all the losses is FPE is given as 890 Newton per mm square. Okay. Estimate the shear resilience of the section as per IS code. We have to determine the shear resistance of this particular section by our IS code, following the steps of your IS code book. Okay, so here you can see we have been given with this moment, right? Moment is given, shear force is given. Hence, once moment is given, what I have told you, we have to use the second formula, that is VCR. We have to use the second formula, VCR. Okay, don't forget. Don't use VCO, the first formula which we have used. Don't use that particular formula. Use the second formula. Okay, all the given data I have written over here. You can see all the given data I have written over here for your easier understanding. Okay, FP, FPE, right, and FPT, FCK, all these values are given. Okay, now moving on to the solution. Solution, you can see as per IS 1343/1980, we are using this particular code book. Going to page number 47, at which we have now recently seen VCR formula is given to us. VCR formula is given to us. This is written down over here. This is taken from the code book. Directly we have taken. Now here M0, I have told you we have a particular formula for calculation of M0. Right? So M0 is equal to 0.8 FPTI by YB. This is the formula which is also given in your code book. This particular formula is also given in your code book. So simply substituting all the values, right? All the values you substitute, FPT, I and YB. All the values are known. Substitute, calculate M0. Okay, M0 value is calculated, no problem. After M0 is calculated, we need to calculate tau C. Tau C, right? All the things you can see are known over here. All the things in this particular equation are known. Only tau C and M0 need to be calculated. Okay, M0 we have calculated. Now moving to tau C. Okay, as I've told you, to calculate tau C, we have to refer table number 6, which is at page number 47, right? Table number 6. Now PT value we have to calculate in order to refer the table. In order to refer the table, we need to calculate PT. It is nothing but 100 AP by BD. 100 into AP by BD. So 100 into area of pre-stressing steel, which is given as 2300. Okay, breadth of the web, that is thickness of the web, is 150, and the effective depth of the beam is 1100. Okay, all these things are given. So PT value we have got as 1.4. PT value is got as 1.4. Now let us move to the code book and check what is the tau C value. Okay, this is table number 6. Okay, to calculate tau C. To calculate tau C. Now what is the grade of concrete that we have to take? What is the grade of concrete? In the question that they have mentioned, FCK value that is mentioned is 45. 45 Newton per mm squared is the FCK value. So we have to use this particular column. Okay, M40 and above. M40 and above. We have to use this column. Now this is PT value which we have calculated. It is 1.4, correct? 1.4. So it is lying between these two values, 1.25 and 1.5, correct? 1.4 will lie between these two values. Now what is the value of tau C? It will be between 0.74 and 0.79, correct? 0.74, 0.79. So this is how you have to refer table number 6. So we have to, now what we have to do, we have to interpolate and we have to find out for the value of 1.4, what is the tau C value. Okay, so now this is taken from code book, right? These particular values are taken from code book. PT value is 1.4, which is our value 1.4. And for 1.25, the shear stress value, tau C value is 0.74. And for 1.5, it is 0.79, right? And what we have to find out? We have to find out at the value of 1.4, what is the tau C value. So by interpolation, I hope you know how to interpolate. By interpolation, we have found out the value of tau C. Tau C we have got as 0.77 Newton per mm squared. Once tau C is done, now you can substitute the values, all the values in VCR. Right, all the values we have calculated, all the values are known, right? You can easily substitute in VCR all the values and calculate VCR. That is the ultimate shear resistance of the beam or the section, of the section, right, in shear. Okay, VCR we can calculate now. You can see I have substituted all the values that are required. All the values I have substituted, right? And VCR we have got as 240 kilonewton. VCR we have got as 240 kilonewton. Now, what is the actual V which is acting on the beam? What is the value that is of shear force that is acting on the beam? The value V which is acting on the beam is 237. This is given to us. 237 kilonewton. Now 240, it is greater, right? It is greater than the shear force which is acting on the beam, which is 237. Right. So you can see the capacity is higher. The capacity is higher than the loading. The capacity is higher. The capacity of the concrete to resist shear is 240, and the shear force coming on the beam is 237. Right. So the concrete can be concrete can easily handle this much amount of shear force. The concrete can handle. No need to provide any. Okay. So that statement we shall not write. Only we shall write that the actual shear acting on the beam is 237, which is less than the shear capacity, Okay, you can write this, but do not write that we do not require any shear reinforcement. That statement do not write, because there are many other conditions which it needs to satisfy before that statement can be written. Because, right, I have told you the shear, these particular statements, right, which I have told you, all these things have to be satisfied. Only then we should not provide your shear reinforcement, right? These particular things it should follow. Now 0.5 VC. Now can anyone tell me what is the value of 0.5 VC? Half of this value. What is half of this value? 240. It is 120 kilonewton. Okay. Now what the clause says is, if your value of V, if the value of V is lesser than this value, if it is lesser than this value, then there is no need of shear reinforcement. But is it true over here? Is it true? Is that particular statement true, or is it false? Is it true or false? What your statement says is, let me explain once more. If the value of 0.5 VCR is greater than V, then no need of any shear reinforcement. What is the value of 0.5 VCR here? It is 120. Is it greater or lesser than 237? It is lesser than 237. So we require pre-stress. We require a minimum amount of steel to be provided. Minimum amount of steel which has to be provided, right? So this is the case. Minimum steel we have to provide. Okay, don't write that no shear design is required. All the statement do not write. We have to check before and then we have to write down. Okay, so we have to provide minimum shear, minimum steel that we have to provide. So the minimum steel can be provided by using this particular formula. Right? This formula you can use and you can provide the minimum amount of steel. Okay, when the V is lesser than VC. Okay, which is the case in our numerical. Okay, so this is the second numerical which we have solved, And I hope it is clear. If you have any doubts, please you can ask. We have time, and that is why live session is kept, so that you can clear your doubts. Right, so I hope you have understood this particular numerical, wherein we have used the second formula for calculation of the ultimate shear resistance of your concrete section. Okay, so we have used both the formulas, right, which are there in the code book. So we have used both the formulas. You can see here. So this is the first formula which we have used in the first numerical. This is the VCO formula which we have used, and then in the second numerical we have used this particular formula VCR. Okay, so no need to remember this. These formulas are already present in your code book. So but you should know the page number. Don't sit searching in the exam where it is. Okay. So all the things are also mentioned here. So easily you can calculate and solve this particular numericals. No need to panic. See, M0 value is also, M0 equation is also provided, right? So all the things are provided. No need to panic. Okay. The table number 6 is at page number 47. Remember page number 46 and page number 47. Very important. Okay. With this, I think we can end today's session here. We have looked into flexure. We have looked into shear, ultimate shear resistance capacity of your concrete section today. Okay, I hope you have understood. Is it clear? Can you let me know, or can you reply and let me know whether you have understood or no? Whether you have followed whatever I have covered today. Sanju, Shubham, Vijay, Vinayak,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
understood? No problem.
Understood, sir.
Easy or no, or difficult? Easy or difficult? Numericals.
Easy, sir.
Easy adalla. So because everything is in codebook, you have to just substitute and you have to solve. Matte if they ask you to about the theory part of this, you can directly write it down from the codebook, right? It is already present. Directly copy paste you can do from the codebook. Theory
Yes,
part
sir.
if they ask you numerical also, it is very easy.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. So you can give your attendance. You can give your attendance. Everyone, please give your attendance. Okay, everyone has given attendance.